Once upon a time, have you ever heard the saying, the city is where dreams come true? Well, for Amarachi, that dream almost cost her everything. This is a story about the two worlds she lived in and the hard truth she discovered in between. Amarachi grew up in a small village in Enugu State. Life was simple. The air smelled of firewood in the mornings, and the nights were 4 stories told under the moonlight. Her family wasn't wealthy, but they were rich in values that money can't buy: hard work, respect, patience, and truth. From a young age, Amarachi's heart was set on the city. Abuja, people in the village spoke of it like a magical land where jobs fell from the sky, where anyone could become a somebody overnight, and where poverty was just a distant memory. So, after finishing secondary school with no clear future in her village, she packed a small bag, kissed her mother's hands goodbye, and set off for the capital. She was going in search of greener pastures, but what she didn't know was that she was walking into a completely different world, a world that doesn't wait for anyone. Abuja was everything she had imagined and more. It was big, loud, and incredibly fast. Buildings soared so high they seemed to touch the sky. People walked with an urgency, as if they were chasing invisible deadlines. In the village, everyone knew your name. Here, nobody even asked. Amarachi wasn't alone. She traveled with 2 other girls from her village. Their plan was to stay with friends who had already made the journey. But the moment they arrived, reality hit them like a physical blow. These friends weren't living in nice houses. They were crammed into tiny rooms, sometimes 10 girls sharing a single, suffocating space. Some slept in shops after they closed for the day. Others rotated from place to place, always one step ahead of being kicked out. There were no jobs falling from the sky. There was no money, and without connections, they were invisible. All they had was hunger. And survival, they would soon learn, speaks a dark and terrifying language. At first, they tried to make an honest living. They cleaned houses, sold sachets of water on the streets, and hawked whatever they could find. But Abuja wasn't kind to beginners. The little money they made was never enough. Soon, the gnawing pain of hunger became louder than the voice of their dignity. The same friends who had welcomed them started to introduce a new, grim reality. They'd say things like, just manage for now, or it's only small, nothing serious. The most common one was, everybody is doing it, not survival. That word began to take on a new, darker meaning. Men who offered them food wanted their bodies in return. Men who offered a ride in their car wanted their silence. And men who offered them a place to sleep wanted ownership over them. Some girls were forced, some were tricked with promises that were never kept, and some, seeing no other way out, simply agreed because starvation felt like the only alternative. What made it even worse was that the abuse often came from people they thought they could trust: boys from their own village, friends of friends, people who knew their families back home. Their bodies became currency, their tears became a nightly routine, and their shame felt like a permanent stain on their souls. For Amarachi, the pain wasn't just physical. It was spiritual. She looked in the mirror and couldn't recognize the person staring back. She stopped praying. The calls home to her mother became less and less frequent until they stopped altogether. How could she tell her family the truth? But then came the breaking point. One night, a man locked her in a room. When she refused his advances, he beat her. And in that moment of terror and pain, something inside her didn't break, it ignited. It wasn't her body that broke. It was her fear. In the darkness of that room, she heard her mother's voice echo in her mind, a promise she had made long ago: no matter how bad it gets, come home alive. That night, bruised and broken-hearted, Amarachi made a decision. She would go home, with nothing, with the shame she carried, but with the truth. The journey back was filled with dread. When she arrived in her village, thin, quiet, and haunted, the whispers started immediately. People stared and pointed, but her parents, they didn't ask questions first. They just hugged her, a long, silent hug that said, "You're home, you're safe." And then she told them everything: the hunger, the abuse, the horrible choices, the fear, the mistakes. She expected anger, disappointment, rejection. Instead, her father looked at her with tears in his eyes and said, "Failure is not falling down. Failure is refusing to stand up again." Her mother held her hand and said, "You went to look for life, you met death, but you came back to us breathing. That, my daughter, is victory." That love, that acceptance was the medicine her spirit desperately needed. Amarachi started again. She learned how to be a tailor. She joined a local women's cooperative, finding strength in community, and she began to talk to the younger girls in the village, not to scare them, but to prepare them. She told them about the realities of the city, not the fake dreams, but the real dangers. Today, Amarachi has a powerful message for any young person dreaming of a better life elsewhere. She says the city is not evil, but ignorance is. She tells them preparation is better than desperation, and most importantly, she says going back home is not defeat, it is strategy. This isn't just Amarachi's story, it is the story of thousands of young men and women who leave their homes with big dreams, only to find themselves in a nightmare. The moral is clear: know exactly what you are going out for. Have a concrete plan, not just a vague dream, because desperation turns human beings into commodities. And remember, sometimes the bravest journey you can take isn't the one that leads you forward into the unknown, but the one that gives you the courage to return, to heal, and to restart. Not every escape leads to freedom, and not every return signifies failure. Sometimes going back home is how you save your own life. If you or someone you know is struggling or has faced similar experiences, please remember that you are not alone and help is available. There are organizations and support groups dedicated to helping survivors of trafficking and abuse. Reaching out is a sign of strength. Thank you for listening to Amarachi's story. If it touched you, please share it. You never know who might need to hear it. Don't forget to subscribe for more stories that matter.